I know how you prepare for a golf tournament.
Well, I hit balls maybe 20 minutes, putt a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range.
Well, we've got a very busy daily puck drop. The DPD here on a Tuesday, July 23rd. Big thanks to John Daly for bringing us in. Yeah, it's a busy day. This feels like a big week here. Because, boy, that Mariners game last night, we're going to get into all that. A lot of this is going to focus in on what happened last night. This just feels like a real turning point in the season. But thank you for watching here on YouTube, listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, The Daily Puck Drop, hashtag the DPD. We do it every single day. 10 a.m. we release it here at pucksports.com. Please follow along if you aren't already. As you can see behind us, we are in the Puck Sports Studios, built by our good friends at Limbeck Lumber. I got to peel the t-shirt away for all you viewers because it's sticking on me. Why? Because I'm fat. Family owned and serving the Northwest since 1930. Northwest premier supplier of specialized lumber and moldings. Summer is here. Want to get a new fence, maybe a new deck? Let the fine folks there at Limbeck Lumber help you out. In fact, we're doing it here soon. We're going to replace our fence that separates our house, our property, from our neighbor's house. It's fallen down, and Limbeck Lumber is going to provide the lumber for us. So give them a call at Limbeck Lumber, 206-782-3487, or visit them online at limbecklumber.com. Go say hi to Paul, Mark, and Matt, and all the crew over there. They're great people. They've been doing it since 1930. Third generation. They know what they're doing. Located in Old Ballard, and just great people. A great kind of family business. So the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbeck Lumber. Yeah, I don't know. Is that rock bottom? 3-1 loss last night there to the Angels. Houston didn't gain any ground because Houston ended up losing there to the Oakland Athletics 4-0. 14 more strikeouts. Mitch Garver just has been a disaster. 3 strikeouts, your designated hitter. I don't know why this team can't find a DH. I don't understand it. I think they are somehow cursed for Edgar Martinez. It must be. It's got to be a curse for Edgar. 2 years, $24 million. He's hitting 168, and he's just been an absolute non-factor. Dylan Moore struck out 4 more times. You wasted Bryce Miller's performance, which was great. 7 innings, 3 hits, 5 Ks. It's just the same storyline over and over and over again. They just cannot score any runs. And they can't do anything. They just cannot do anything offensively. It is a maddening team to follow. It's amazing that they still sit here on July 23rd on a Tuesday, tied for first place. It's such a testament to this starting staff. I joked last night on X, I think they should strike. I would come to the ballpark today and strike and be like, we're not going to pitch until you guys figure it out offensively, because we're carrying your asses all year long. All year long. Mentioned this many times before. I would love to be on a private text thread with these starters and just the amount of shit that they talk about this offense, because it's just hard. It's a hard watch. They don't hit the ball. They do nothing well offensively, just nothing. And all they do is strike out, and they waste great starting pitching. Here's a note from Divish today in the paper. That was their 11th quality start in 16 games in July. They have lost 7 of those, including the past 5. They have scored a total of 10 runs in those 7 losses. That's the Divish nugget in the paper. That's remarkable. That's hard to do. And I think where the breaking point for a lot of you, including myself, because we're all fans. You're watching, you're listening to this. We're fans. I'm not down there covering the team every day. I'm not asking questions and doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, loosely use the term media. we're commenting, like my role is in your role. Our role is to comment on the team. We're commentators. And what has been so maddening for these guys, it's just not this year. It's the last 3 or 4 years, maybe longer. It's just, you can even go back, and we did this exercise, I think, a few weeks ago. You can go all the way back to the beginning of this run for this group, 9 years. They've had one good offense, and that was the first year. Other than that, it's been mediocre to awful. I know if they could fix it and they knew how to fix it, they would do it. Whatever their organizational philosophy is, and we go on and on about that, I don't know. I don't know why whatever they see in a pitcher, why it cannot translate over to a hitter. I don't know why they don't acquire more players that play like Victor Robles to a degree. Because that plays in this ballpark, and that will play anywhere. But they get out and they want these guys, and they send guys to different, whether it's Driveline or somewhere else, to lift the ball, to hit the ball in the ballpark, when that's not their game. Remember, I think it might have been Divish last week talking about Evan White. Remember, they changed Evan White's swing. Evan White was never going to be a 30 home run guy. That's not why they drafted him. Maybe they thought he could be that, but he was a doubles hitter, contact hitter, probably 20 home runs. That was what Evan White was going to be. Then they changed him. No, you got to be this way. And he noted it, that it ruined him. He never was the same. And then, of course, now he's not with the organization anymore. Ty France, and we'll get into Ty France. We talked to Kruger about it yesterday. He tried to change his swing to lift everything, to hit everything out of the ballpark. But that's not, and I know that's what gets guys paid, but that's not Ty France's game. Never was. He's a 20 home run guy. And I know that's not great numbers anymore for a power position like first base. Back in the day it was, but if you got a bunch of guys that hit 20 home runs, but then hit a bunch of doubles as well, that makes your team better. But it's just we can rinse and repeat this show and every other show when it comes to these guys. They will fall flat. They will miss the playoffs, if they just cannot get this offense going. And, as we sit here, and I don't know, whether 60 games, less than 60 games left in the season, there's zero signs it's going to turn around. You got Julio banged up now. You got JP banged up now. Not like they were doing anything anyways, but, it just makes them worse off offensively. So Crawford leaves the game yesterday, hits on the pinky. He's got a fracture, so he's out. He's headed to the IL. So now you got to move parts around. Dylan Moore playing there. You need a new leadoff hitter. That should have had a new leadoff hitter for a while now. We advocated for Victor Robles yesterday. So we'll see what they'll do there today in their game 2 of the series against the Angels. But it's then you got the news on Julio. His MRI comes back. He's going to be day to day, but they feel like they've avoided a major injury there with Julio, which is great news. But it's it's rock bottom. I don't know if it does it just to describe what is going on right now. I thought the Ty France thing yesterday was weird. He's placed on waivers. We talked to Duquette yesterday. Duquette said that should never have become public. None of that should have been public. None of that. But it somehow comes out. Probably not the team leaking it. It's probably France's camp that leaks it out. But then you got this whole odd situation where he's there. He meets with the media. He's signing autographs yesterday. And then he's in uniform. Because they, if they had to use him in an emergent situation, they would use him. That was just, I've never seen anything like it. And I was talking to a couple people over there. I said, you've ever seen anything like that? Nope, never. And stuff like the waivers they put him on yesterday has happened a bunch. You just don't know about it. And we wouldn't have known about it. But this became public. And as Duquette said yesterday, there's going to be, if they find out who did that, there's going to be a hefty fine for them. Because none of that is supposed to be public knowledge. And it was, and it just led to just a very odd scene yesterday, and then France is, hugging teammates before the game, cleaning out his locker there after the game. As Divish wrote in the paper today, expect Tyler Locklear to be up. Now, they brought up Vossler yesterday, and they sent Ryan Bliss down. So, I mean, we'll see what I know the Vossler guy can play outfield too, but we'll see what they do with their roster and how they manipulate it and how much Tyler Locklear will actually play. If you watched the Root postgame last night, that was the most frustrated Scott Servais has ever been. One, I think it's the first time I've ever seen him with his hat off in a postgame press conference, but he was agitated. And I believe it was Shannon Dreyer, who works for the team, had asked him, and it's kind of hard to hear a little bit of this audio, asked him about, you have shown patience all year long with this team, but today or tonight seems like you are out of patience, that your tone has changed. Why?
Shown a lot of patience with what you've seen. Why tonight?
Because I'm tired of watching it. Stand up for our guys, believe in them. Some nights, that's not Major League Baseball. We handed them a game. You want to be playing playoff baseball, you want to be driving home. 60 games. Talk about being a marathon. It's getting to be close to a sprint. Not quite there yet. We're getting close. So 60 games. You got to show up and compete. Go ready to take it every night. And if you don't, this league doesn't care. They'll just walk on by you. That's where we're at. So, everybody has to step up. That's where we're at. And I thought, yesterday's game, we competed very well. We got after it. Didn't show up. Didn't happen tonight. And that's inexcusable and just gifted the game away.
He was clearly frustrated. He was pissed off yesterday, and I just wonder if this continues to go down like this week. They've got the Angels here for 2 more games. If something happens, if they have a couple of more similar losses like they had on Monday, I think he's going to be fired. Now, do I think it's the right decision? That's not. I'm not here to sit there and say that's the right or wrong decision. It's just this is what organizations do. I don't think he's solely responsible for how poorly that they have played at times this year offensively. He is not responsible, in my opinion, of how bad they are offensively. That is the response. 2 people are to blame for that. Number one, the number one person to blame, and don't lose sight of it. And you can just say ownership or John Stanton. Well, let's just say ownership. It is number one the problem of and the fault of ownership. Number one. Now, number 2 is Jerry Dipoto. He's right. Clearly he's right behind there. And he shares not equal blame to ownership, but a lot of it because he puts the team together. He's the president of the baseball operations. He's the one who puts the product on the field. And offensively, he hasn't done a good job of putting the product on the field. Now, I think he's handcuffed of what he can put out there. He is. Because his ownership group does not give him the resources, money-wise, to go out and acquire talent in the offseason. They don't. They never have. I don't think they ever will. I don't think they're ever serious about winning. I think they like a slow drip of a team that likes to float around between 85 and 89 wins because it for the most part, people go out to that ballpark and they buy the hot dogs and they buy everything that's associated with the team. And they show up. And I think that is important to them. I think the long sustained, I don't want to say mediocre success, but success to the point where you're just always kind of relevant, but not really, you're not championship relevant. I think they value that more than actually getting down and dirty and winning a championship and doing whatever it takes to win. I've just maintained that belief for so long, and it's so plainly obvious that that's what they care about. Every decision they make is based on how does this make us a better business, not a better baseball team. Every decision that John Stanton and this ownership group has made comes back to business. They treat it like a business rather than a baseball team. That's it. And they hand these guys a budget and they say work around that. And that's difficult to do. That is still on Dipoto to find, hey, this is your budget. This is what you got to work with. You've got to find the players that fit that type of profile. And he consistently, offensively, has been unable to do that. And I don't think he's capable of doing it. He has not proved it in 9 years that he can build a successful offense. Has he done it for the pitching staff? Absolutely. Absolutely. But offensively, I mean, it's just the same problem over and over and over and over again. I don't think that Servais is to be completely excused. I mean, the Stanek decision last night, I would just say I don't know what else he's supposed to do there. What other options do they have? And again, they just don't have many options down in the bullpen. But Ryan Stanek has not looked good of late. In his last 3 games, he's pitched an inning total. He's given up 4 runs and 4 walks. He didn't look good before last night's game. Game before that, he was walking guys left and right. They are limited down there because they don't want or they can't or don't want to pitch Gregory Santos on back-to-back days. So it makes them, vulnerable down there. I would say to Servais, you have Andres Munoz down there. I know he pitched on Sunday, but he threw 12 pitches. Why did he throw 10 pitches yesterday? He faced 2 batters in the 8th. You can't use him again in the 9th inning? He's thrown 20-plus pitches before. He's done it quite a few times. I know you're trying to save him, but as you said last night, it's not a marathon anymore. It's a sprint. All these games count. That was a game they needed their best pitcher out there on the mound. And you know what? If it costs you not using him today and tomorrow, so be it. You figure it out. You got Santos today. You could have used him. Yeah, the number one person to blame or the number one group to blame is this ownership group. And speaking of this ownership group, Bill Kruger on yesterday's program, again, which is up on Apple and Spotify, YouTube, go watch, go listen to all of it. We're talking about, his thoughts on the ownership group, because he got a thought on Victor Robles as well. But, Bill, he works for them. I mean, keep this in mind. He works for Root Sports, which is owned by the team. So when he says something like this, I think it's pretty telling about the feelings the majority of us have about this ownership group.
I think this team is being run. I mean, we're talking about the front office. I think I think they understand everything. They found pitching under rocks. I mean, they've found guys that have helped them that nobody else liked, and they've done a good job of actually leveraging all they can control. But when you have an ownership group that doesn't want to spend the kind of money that maybe you need to spend, that's not the front office's fault. That's not Scott Servais' fault. It's not Cherry's fault. I mean, that's coming from another place. And to understand the dynamics around that, where they were the most profitable team 2 years ago and they were number 5 last year. And of course they had the big drop in revenue from the negotiation with Comcast. And where does that put them? And they had to do deals where they just had to shuttle people out the door just to kind of get the salary down so they could start maneuvering forward.
Again, like he just said it there, this is a guy who works for the organization telling you that this is an ownership problem. They don't want to spend. They are, and that's the other thing is their revenue is coming in for this team. Tons of it. They pocket it. They don't reinvest it back into the players. They reinvest it back into their pockets. This group wants the slow drip of success rather than actually going for it. They have a pitching staff, a starting staff that is as good, if not the best one in baseball. They're in first place right now, and we're going to spend this week bitching and moaning, and rightfully so, and talking about whether or not they may have to replace their manager. They're in first place. And this ownership group, because they have not opened up their wallets to this front office to go out and spend. In fact, told them in the offseason they need to trim payroll. you're left with what you're left with. You're, castaways. Well, you give Mitch Garver $24 million over 2 years, and he's hitting 165. Why Jorge Polanco? You had to go out and get him, and he's done nothing for you. They found Victor Robles, and Victor Robles in the last month has been your best offensive player. Now, the one thing, and you saw it on display last night, and Kruger said this to me on yesterday's show, and I took a step back, but when he said it, then I did go back and look at some of these plays. He's not a good defender. He's just not. And it was on a display yesterday, that throw home. That was a terrible throw. And I've heard about how great his arm is. Did his arm look good on that throw? He's misplayed balls left and right. In fact, his first fly ball to him, as Bill pointed out yesterday, was one that he dropped. But as Bill said, playing him every day scares the hell out of him.
He's a mistake waiting to happen.
What do you mean by he's a mistake? Like, if they play him more, what's going to get exposed?
I mean, these are subtle things. He's had 3 fly balls. 2 of them he ran away from. He had the ball that went down the corner. That was yesterday, right? And he fumbled it around and lobbed it in. I mean, he just misplayed the ball off the wall. He had a play in the first game of the series where he lollygagged it, and Alex Bregman had to freeze because he didn't know if the ball was going to be caught. There was a play at the plate. Instead, he lobs the ball into second base, and there's a play at the plate.
Right.
He scares me out defensively.
Now, here's what I'd say to Bill, and we said it yesterday, that unfortunately you need him in the lineup every day because he hits. He gets on, and offensively right now you're a disaster, and he provides good offense, and he should be your leadoff hitter, and he gets on base and he creates havoc. But I think there is this reputation for Victor Robles that he's some plus defender. Maybe he was in the past. He has not shown that. Go back and watch those plays that Kruger noted. The ball's in the outfield, getting to them, cutting them off, throwing to the wrong cutoff person, throwing it in late, allowing a run to go, advance. He's done things defensively that you really, hell, he almost ran into Clase last night. There's plays that he makes that I didn't think about it until Kruger brought it up, and then went back and looked at the stuff and Bill was right. Defensively, he does scare you. That throw last night was not good. I mean, it hit the back. He was in shallow center and hit the back of the mound. Come on. I mean, that's not a plus arm or a good defender or any of that. But at this point, he's getting on base and he's hitting, and you need him in there. So I'm willing. Well, I think all of us are just willing to say, F it, let him play. Is help on the way? I mean, now it starts to beg the question of will they make a move? I don't know why it's glass half empty. I'm starting to feel like they're not going to do anything, like, at all. If they do, it's going to be real minor, not a big splash. We brought that up yesterday with Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM, former GM of the Mets and Orioles. He's with us every Monday. I'm sure you guys all know that. Big thanks to Flat Stick Pub. Thanks, Andy. He says that the Rays, he talked to the Rays GM, and the Rays GM said, we're open for business. Okay, we're going to start moving guys. A lot of right-handed bats, but as Duquette said yesterday on the Monday show, Mariners are not interested in those right-handed bats.
It's not supposed to be leaked to the media, and there are specific financial fines for somebody if you get caught leaking it, like to the tune of $250,000 personally. So somebody leaked this information.
That was the wrong cut. But here's the best part about doing this is I can try to find that one. I want to find the right cut. God, I played the wrong cut. That's on me. E1 on me. That is Jim Duquette talking about Ty France. And Ty France, we mentioned this before when it came up with France. That, again, that whole thing with France was not supposed to be public. That was supposed to be private. You handle that behind the scenes and all that. But that was not supposed to be something that came out. Let's see if I can find the right cut here. This is not quite like doing it live, but it kind of is. And the whole thing is, I'm not going to edit this part out. Is this the right one? Please say it is.
It's not supposed to.
It's not. It's not the right one. I probably labeled them wrong like a putz, for God's sakes. You could just trust me. He said that the Mariners at this point are just not interested in going out and getting any of these right-handed bats from the Tampa Bay Rays. That it's just not in their MO right now. You look at Aesop Paredes is a guy that would be maybe a fit for Seattle, but because he pulls everything to left field, because the Mariners, that's not really where you want to hit home runs. They don't really want to do that. They would prefer a left-handed bat. Okay, I'm going to try a third time if this is the cut. If this is not the cut, you know what we're going to do? We're going to move on.
I'm hearing Seattle isn't interested in many of the right-handed bats with Tampa. And that's even though I get right-handed hitters in T-Mobile, I don't get not having good hitters on your team. Why wouldn't you have interest in somebody like Paredes he's 25 years old, a couple years of service time. In the end, I don't know if Tampa's going to be willing to move him, but I have heard his name more recently mentioned.
There we go. Third time was a charm. We finally got the right cut. So, again, he mentioned that they've got right-handed bats, Rosarina, Paredes being the two guys there for Tampa, but the Mariners just not interested in right-handed bats. Paredes can play both first base and third base. He's got power. It's ball pull. Every home run has always gone to left field. He's club controller to 27. They have a history of making deals. I don't think you're going to shut the door on it, but he's saying, and he's tight with these guys. He knows a lot of these guys with Seattle, that maybe that does not interest them. Rosarina, same thing, club control through 26. Down year is a better option than anything that the Mariners have right now. This week, I don't. It's going to be fascinating to kind of watch this week play out. You got the Seahawks are starting training camp later this week. There's a bad vibe around this team right now. Playing bad baseball. Servais kind of losing it last night. Ty France on waivers. He sticks around. It's odd. The Julio injury. Crawford now going down. If they have one or two more of these losses, again, I could see that, you see news that they've relieved them and replaced them with whoever. I've maintained along that I do believe Dan Wilson at some point will be the manager of this team, but I'm just going to throw that out there right now so we can get a timestamp and say, you were right. I get nothing right, but that would be maybe one thing that I was right about. All right, let's wrap up the Daily Puck Drop, the DPD, with Hey, What the Puck. It's brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Go say hi to our buddies Trent and Derek. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. Their phone number is 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. Their North Seattle franchise. Let them take care of you, okay? One-stop shop. They're there for you. NBA news, Warner Brothers has matched their $1.8 billion deal that Amazon had out with the NBA for the media rights deal. Now, the NBA... the league has got, they'll probably decide by the end of the week whether or not they'll accept that offer. One thing that I've never understood is why the NBA and Adam Silver from the get-go didn't make Warner Brothers TNT a priority to have them still with the league. That they should have been a priority. They should have been negotiating, in addition with NBC and ABC and ESPN. They should have made Warner Brothers TNT a priority because of one thing, that show inside the NBA. As one of the biggest reasons why that league is as popular as it is and why people are drawn into it is a large part based with those guys, with Ernie and Chuck and Kenny and Shaq. And they're as much a part of the league as the players are. And they should have made them a priority from day one to have a deal done. Now we'll just see whether or not the league accepts it. And I don't know if Amazon can counter that or not, but I would like to see the TNT group be a part of it, and hopefully that means Barkley will stay on beyond next year and stay with him. Speaking of leagues, I'll switch over to the NFL with camps opening up in full swing this week. It'll be interesting to hear maybe some players on Thursday when the Hawks open it up about the proposal between the NFL and the NFLPA about 18-game schedule. And we'll talk to Garofolo about it on Thursday's show, that it's getting closer and closer to probably happening. And I mean, I guess a less preseason game and you add another game, but where do you stop at 18? At what point does the league just stop? Because 18 the number? When is it 20? When is it 22? When is it 24? I mean, the thing about billionaires and the thing about NFL owners is greed. They are greedy. They want more and more and more and more. And so you may think 18 is good for now, but when is 18 not good enough? When do they say, well, we want to get rid of all the preseason games? I mean, because it will happen. And I'm kind of a smart ass, and I'm being a smart ass about this. I've always joked that I think if they could pull it off, they would have NFL year round. If they could. And you would be playing every single day because of how much money that would bring in, because we would all watch. We would all watch all of it. Speaking of people not watching all of it, Cheryl Miller, she came out this week and she talked about how it was disrespectful, slap in the face, the new WNBA TV deal, which is paying $2.2 billion, which is a significant upgrade of what the WNBA was getting before. And she called it a slap in the face. No one is watching the league if it's not Caitlin Clark. And Cheryl Miller is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, women's basketball player ever. But I think sometimes people do not realize it takes to get more revenue. You need people to watch. You need to bring in revenue in order to get more revenue. And they just don't bring in, the league does not bring in money. They don't. They subsidized by the NBA. They don't bring in anything. She does. Look at the attendance. Look at the TV numbers. People are tuning in or going to the games for her, not for the entire league. Now, maybe it does raise the league, and I think there is greater interest in the league, but it is focused in on one player in particular. Now, maybe that will bring in new fans as we come, but I'm not saying that Cheryl Miller needs to sit back and just be happy with what they got, but don't sit up there and talk about how it's a slap in the face. This is the best deal this league's ever received, and it's because of one player. Just because you don't get equal pay or equal revenue or equal share just because you think it's right. There is a business element to this where you've got to bring in an actual money to receive the money. It's, basic economics that I don't think Cheryl Miller quite fully grasps or understands. Voicemails are open. We're going to play the best ones on Friday. I'd love to hear from Mariner fans. Sound off on this week. What's going on with the team? How you feel about Servais, DePoto, ownership, all of it. Voicemail line is open. Pucksports.com, upper right-hand corner is the phone number. I'll give it to you here for the listeners on Apple and Spotify and the podcast, 425-577-7272. 425-577-7272. Numbers also up on the website at pucksports.com. That is Hey What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, damage, and also mold damage to your property and commercial property, personal property. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages do happen to your home or to your business. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. It's a Tuesday. Coming up later, we'll talk to Brad Adam, Root Sports, more on where the Mariners are at right now this murky week. Could more moves be happening? The Ty France situation. Also, John Canzano of johncanzano.com. He's in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Media Day. So we'll talk to John from there, the site of the Big Ten Media Day, which features the LA schools, Oregon, and Washington, which is just weird to say. So those episodes coming up a little bit later today. So be on the lookout for those at pucksports.com. And, of course, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the podcast platforms. They're all there for you. We release new episodes of the Daily Puck Drop every day at 10 a.m. Please like, subscribe, share. Share to all your family and friends. Hit that subscribe button. Leave comments on YouTube. Share as much as possible, but please subscribe wherever you like to listen to or watch there on YouTube. All right, we'll talk to you later today. As always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!